Welcome, everyone. This is Shireen Abid from Worth Electronics. I am the product specialist for connectors for the East region, and I've been with the company for 10 years. And today I will talk about Worth Electronics thermal blocks and what we can offer from our end. As you see in the bottom here, my email address, if you have any questions, comments, please let me know. And today, what I'm going to talk about and what we can offer is the huge number of pitches, different orientations, different system, which means that pluggable, rising cage, wire protector, and a screwless, as well as informing you about solutions in the market from our end. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer your questions, but I would like to do that by the end of the presentations. So today for the agenda, I'm going to talk about applications and products. And the point of here to give you an idea about who could or would be using this product. And definitely it's not going to be limited to a size or current or the design requirements, as well as basics and definitions. I'm sure that we have good mix of audience with different years of experience. And this would just be a kind of like a reminder for whoever have an experience, as well as kind of like an introduction for students fresh out of college. Characteristics. We will talk about technical information as well as details about the products. Types. There's a lot of styles that would help you in your application whenever you have kind of like design and you're in the design stage. Think out of the box. And this kind of like is going to be a very interesting slide that I would like to share with you. One family, many applications. I'm sure that you see all of these thermal blocks with these colors, and there's a lot of applications. But the question here that I would like to ask is kind of like when and why should I use a specific product? And the answer will be in the next slides. Applications and products. Kind of like who should be using thermal blocks? Let's think about it. It's kind of like, would this product be kind of like would fit in my applications and my designs? So let's go through kind of like what categories could fit in this application. Consumer electronics, security, audio devices, fire alarm, smoke detector, and HVAC. Networking, power supplies, industrial, AC drives, controller board, digital process meters, power converters, motor control, PLC, and power interface module. Industrial automation, gas analyzers, sustaining energy, solar power, and telecom equipment like base stations. By the way, I'm sure that this is kind of like not limited to what you see here. I'm sure that most of you or a lot of you, they are using thermal blocks, but it's not listed here. So here's the question that I would like to ask, and at the same time, I will answer from my end. Why the thermal blocks would be recommended to be used in these applications? And the answer is due to durability, a wire gauge that could handle high current, and it's good for maintenance, isolation, a lot of pitches, different type and orientations. Basics and definitions. I'm sure a lot of people hear about pitches, spacing. There's a lot of wording for that. And the pitches is kind of like the distance between the center of two pins on the connector. If you look at it here, That's the distance called pitch. AWG, a lot of people talk about AWG, which is the American wire gauge. And if you look at the American wire gauge, you will see kind of like, the higher the number, the thinner the wires. And this could be measured in millimeter or inch, or could be measured by the area in millimeter square. Working voltage, and that's going to be a required for every single application, the UL, CULUS, and VDE. If we go kind of like for the UL underwriters laboratories, CULUS, it's kind of like it's a UL meets the Canadian and US standards. It depends kind of like once your product is finished, where it's going to be marketed, where it's going to be sold. So if your product is going to be only sold in US, you're going to meet the UL standard. If it's going to be sold in Canada, you're going to have the CULUS. VDE, as we are a German company, we have our standard as well that we have to meet for the German standard. IDC, insulation displacement contact. Solid wire versus stranded wire. The solid wire is a single piece of metal wire, and a stranded wire is made of bundle of metallic wires and provide great flexibility. Now, maybe someone will ask kind of like, what are the difference and when should I use the solid versus stranded wire? And the answer will be the stranded wire is more flexible than solid wire. And we're talking about the same cross-sectional area. Stranded wire also used for high resistance of metal fatigue is required. The solid wire is cheaper solution versus the stranded wire, as well as has less reliability due to the flexibility. Also, another definition for SMT, surface mount technology, THT, through-hole technology, THR, through-hole reflow. Characteristics. Pitch, and again, it's kind of like the definition. The definition for the pitch is the spacing between the two positions or two contacts or two pins, like these two, for example, or these two. So as you see, we have all variety of from 2.5, 2.54 up to 10.16 millimeter. As you notice, we have 14 different pitches. Modular builds. Some of our thermal blocks comes in a standard number of positions, and some engineers looking for a higher number of positions. And just in case if we cannot comply with the requirements for the number of positions that you're looking for, we can use the modular build feature, which is pretty much kind of like stacking thermal blocks next to each other to get the number of positions. And that would apply only to the rising cage, not the pluggable system. Mounting as a feature or characteristic, it comes in, we can have it in through-hole, surface mount, or through-hole reflow. Optional screw flanges, and pretty much you will see screws on each end, and pretty much just in case if you have a lot of vibration in your application or industrial, and you want to make sure that it's going to be secure connection, you can use the flanges, which is going to be kind of like using two screws is going to hold it tight. Wire holding system for PCB mount and pluggable. And here it comes are the systems: wire protector, pluggable system, rising clamp, spring clamp, and IDC. And we're going to go through all of these one by one and describe it and talk about it technically. Rated current up to 57 amps per contact. So that's why if you kind of like you want to use like a thermal block with 2-3 amps, you can use that. If you're looking for a high power applications and current go up to 50 amps, you know, we can supply you that. Also can accept wire up to 8 wire gauge. This is kind of like very thick wire, which is excellent for industrial application. That's why a lot of engineers using thermal blocks for industrial. Here are the types that I was talking about. We have wire protector, which is a very cost-effective solution. Rising clamp, the quality screwed connection, and pressure clamp, the quality screwed front entry, spring clamp, and we call it also as a screwless solution. And the last one is pluggable system. It's easy mate and unmate. Excuse me. So we kind of like talk about the first one. Let's talk about the first one, the wire protector system, which is the very cost-effective solution. And usually you will see it a lot in the field as it's blue. It's kind of like a differentiator. If it's kind of like it's blue, it will be cheaper than the green one. As an indication, and here's the mechanism is a little bit different. The wire fixed by the wire guard into the solution. And pretty much when you have a flathead screwdriver and you screw down the screw, pretty much is going to go down on a flat plate, and that's going to go down to hold the wire tight. And instead of kind of like without that flat plate, pretty much the screw is going to pinch the wire, and it's not going to hold it, all of it. So that's why it's a little bit cheaper. If we talk about pitches, we have 3.5, 5, 7.5, and 10 millimeter. A wire gauge can go up to 12. Rated current up to 18 amps. And here, number of positions or number of contacts can go up to 10 positions. Again, the flat plate will go down when the screw goes down. It's going to push that flat plate, and it's going to hold the wire tight. Now we're going to talk about a rising clamp system, which is the higher quality screwed solutions. And pretty much it works the same way in a way, but it's not exact the same way. So for example here, the screw is gonna, and it's kind of like when you have a flat head screwdriver, when you screw the screw, it's not gonna go down. Pretty much it pulls up the gauge up, and hold the wire tight. Unlike the first wire protector. So the wire protector, the first one, pretty much the screw will go down. For the rising clamp, the screw is gonna stay where it is, and the cage will go up to hold tight on the wire. As you see here, we have a lot of pitches from 2.54 up to 10.16 millimeter. The wire gauge up to 10. Rated current up to 40 amps. And number of positions up to 12 positions. Please, if you have any questions, please save it until the end of the presentation, and I will be more than happy to answer any question. Screwless or spring clamp system. As you see here, it's kind of like pretty much you push that lever to the back, and here's the hole. You insert the wire. Once you release that lever, it's gonna hold it tight, hold the wire tight. It's kind of like a trap. If you look at it over here, you push the lever back, and there's a hole here. You insert the wire, and then release the lever. Then it's gonna hold it tight. The cable fixed by a spring clamp trapping the wire into the terminal. Pitches from 2.54 up to again 10.16 millimeter. Wire gauge up to 10. Rated current up to 30 amps. And number of positions, that's an amazing number of positions just in case if you have multiple screwless application within your product, can go up to 24 position. Pluggable system. It's easy mating, unmating, and pretty much a lot of people using it kind of like for maintenance. If you have any product that you want to do maintenance on, it just kind of like unplug it, unmate it, and do what you have to do, and plug it back when you're finished with the maintenance. And because it's a pluggable system, so it comes in two parts, the male and the female. The male part soldered to the PCB, the female which hooked to the wire. As you see, the pitch is from 2.5 up to 7.62 millimeter. Wire gauge up to 12. Rated current up to 20 amps. Number of positions up to 24. Reverse gender. It's kind of like work as a pluggable system. And in this picture, on the right side, ask yourself, where's the power is coming from? Are we kind of like, the wire comes off the other board, this one, or that one? And pretty much kind of like for safety, the power comes from that side on the left, because the pins is not object to anybody can touch it. As you see here, prevent metal contact discharge, reduce accident risk with electricity. And this application could be used for board-to-board application. We have only one size so far, which is 3.81, wire gauge up to 12, rated current up to 20 amps, number of positions up to 8. Thermoblock, through hole, and surface mount type. From our end, when you see any thermoblock and it's black, that means it could handle the through hole reflow. Features, the pitch, we have 3.81 and 5.08 millimeter. LCP and PA90 and all of that high temp plastic material. As I said, it's black. When you see it's thermoblock black from our end, that means it's handled a reflow, a through hole reflow. Benefits for the through hole reflow. It saves you time and money because it employs only one process, which is a reflow. The strength of the reflow solder joint is comparable to those of traditional through hole solder joints. Through hole reflow makes it easier to process double-sided boards, especially with taller components. The function principle of the through-hole reflow. Pretty much you have kind of like the PCB and you position the stencil on the top of it. Then you put the solder paste on the board as the point number 2. On the third point, you use like a wiper or kind of like squeegee to spread the paste on the board through the vase. Number 4, position component on the board. Number 5, put the board in the oven and heat it. Number 6, and the last, have the final product with through-hole component in a tape and reel process. And there is also another advantage of the through-hole reflow, which is the hole fill rate is 100% with solder, compared to the through-hole, which is less consistency. Thermal blocks, from our end, it's kind of like, what does that mean? The principal characteristics, solder was a reflow process, high temp plastic up to 265 C, short PCB perpendicular pins, air gap between components, and the PCB. Why should I use kind of like the through-hole reflow? As the surface, as the through-hole and the through-hole reflow resist to mechanical stress on end user connection, the surface mount and through-hole reflow is soldered with a reflow process. So pretty much you will have 2 solutions in one process. And how can we do that? If you look at the bottom, you will see surface mount and through-hole. You initial the PCB, surface mount, pick in place, reflow process, and then the final PCB. That's kind of like, that's going to be in the surface mount. But if it's a through-hole process, we're going to go through the same thing, but it's going to be manual position to put the component on the PCB and then do the selective soldering, then you will have the final product. If you look at it as a surface mount and through-hole reflow, it's going to be the same process. You're going to have the components on a tape and reel for processing, and you go through the oven, through the reflow process, and you will have the final PCB. Here, kind of like a general idea about kind of like what kind of components that we could have a reflow, a through-hole reflow from our end. The red cube through-hole reflow can go up to 50 amps in certain products and 85 in other products. We have the fuse holders, which is our standard, it's 5 by 20. The pluggable thermal blocks, as I mentioned before, it's when it's black, that means it's through-hole reflow. On the other side, we have a modular jack, horizontal shielded, and with LEDs. The same thing we have for USBs. We have the Type A, Type B, and Type C. Think out of the box slide. That's the whole point of that slide that I had. It's kind of like think out of the box. A lot of people think as a thermal blocks, it's mainly for power, but I can use it as well as a wire to board, like the pluggable system. Also, I can use it as a wire to wire or inline, either or. And we have the same product that would do the same function, and our series is 3485 and 351. And here's kind of like a picture how that's going to be plugged together. Also, you can use it as a board to board, and we have the series 3093. Screwless version, just in case it's convenient. You don't want to deal with driver. Pretty much you press down, On the top here, you insert the wire, then you release your finger, then it's going to hold it. Through hole reflow type, because a lot of people think thermal blocks are through hole. So which is, yes, absolutely. We have kind of like one version is that's a surface mount. But as long as it's kind of like it's a through hole, would be better if you can save time and money on the process by having it as a through hole reflow. Also, coding key. Coding key, if it's an industrial, I saw a lot of boards that they have multiple right angles, headers, and they kind of like, they have like 8 positions or 6 positions as an example, and pretty much the engineer is just afraid what could happen in the field, and the technician could mix and match plugs and could make short circuit on the board by plugging a wrong plug to the header. So this coding key, pretty much, this one is going to go on the wire side, the plug side, and this pin is going to go on the header side for the PCB side. And once you have it aligned together, there is no way that you can plug it together. That was it from my end. Thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate it. Would like to ask if anybody had any questions. And by the way, we were going to send this presentation to you, whoever requested. I would like to ask anybody has any questions. I got a question regarding thermal blocks with cage clamping stranded wire. To avoid fraying of the strand, it is recommended to tin stranded wire or not. I would like to ask if you would mind kind of like send me an email. My email is Shereen, SHEREEN .ABEID @we-online.com. I would like to understand exactly your application so I can offer you the right solutions with different materials. Another question, are you going to have these type of technology in 2mm or less? If we have it in 2mm, we have it right now in 2.54. So I'm not sure if 254 is sufficient or it has to be 2mm. That's from one side. The other side, if we can have it in less than 2mm, it's going to be tough because of the creepage and clearance and the UL standard. If it's going to be less than 2mm, we recommend that you can use other wire to board, and we have a lot of these. So you can, from our end, we have families that can go up to 1mm, 1.20, 1.25, and 2mm. So, but we're not going to be able to do thermal blocks with less than 2mm spacing. And again, I would like to hear about your application. So please shoot me an email with your application, your other questions. Another question, do you have more options with fuses? So far, we just have only the fuse holder. We don't have the fuse. But for the other options, we have only the 5x20 as a kind of like as a starting point. Usually every year we have twice releases per year. So we could have in the future, I don't have the roadmap right now. I don't know what's going to happen next, but that's what we got right now for the fuses. By the way, also, I would like to talk about our service as the manufacturer with direct sales, that all of our components are stocked in our warehouse in South Dakota. We do free samples. We can ship it overnight if it's needed. Usually our standard shipment takes like 2 days. We ship in 2 days. Free samples, technical support. You have a local representative, sample kits, lunch and learn. I got another question. Rising clamp was pretty cool. It looks like it allows for a stranger more precise. Okay. Again, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and thanks for your attention. And the last thing I would like to mention about our logo, more than you expect, we have a stock in the US, free samples, sample kits. We do a lot of crossing, technical support, and local representatives. Thank you so much, and you have a great day.